Infinite is a new Mark Wahlberg sci-fi action film from director Anton Fuqua that you probably don't know about or don't know it actually came out, but it did. It's on Paramount Plus. Remember that? It used to be CBS All Access, but now it's Paramount Plus, home of Camp Coral and Sponge on the Run, the iCarly revival, probably some other stuff. This movie is about a group of people called Infinites who have lived throughout the course of history. They keep getting reincarnated and they keep getting involved with this war with other people who keep getting reincarnated but want to end the world. They're complete nihilists, they want the world to end, they're sick and tired of everything, so these people fight these guys. But the thing about Mark Wahlberg is that he's someone who doesn't remember his past lives. He gets reincarnated just like everybody else in the usual process, but he completely forgets his entire history, so he has to get reintroduced to this whole war and this whole group of people that are hopefully trying to get some information out of him. I was hoping for good things with this movie. Whenever I would scroll through the coming soon on IMDb, which is something I periodically kind of do, just like what else is coming out that I might have forgotten about. Every once in a while I'd see this picture of Mark Wahlberg next to a plane and it was called Infinite, directed by Anton Fuqua, and I was like, that could be pretty cool because Anton Fuqua is a really talented filmmaker. I've got a lot of faith in that guy to make something really entertaining and really good. I didn't read the book this was based on, the Reincarnationist Diaries or Papers, whatever it's called. I didn't read that, but looking at a quick Wikipedia plot synopsis of it, it seems like they did make some changes to adapt it to the big screen, make an action movie out of it, which, you know, that's all good because the premise is the best thing going for this movie. Watching the movie, I was like, there's these moments here where they're properly planting the seeds of a story that should grow and develop into something really, really cool. Should, in theory. So yeah, this movie kind of sucks. This movie opens and hits you immediately with this awful narration that Mark Wahlberg decided to just ADR real quick. It feels like a really bad creative choice where they were like, we think the audience might be too dumb to catch on to what we're doing, so let's have a couple parts in the plot where Mark Wahlberg will narrate, and he's like, hey guys, I'm Mark Wahlberg. I'm here to explain what's going on because I think you're about as dumb as me. I want to explain everything that's going on to you before we actually even get started. And then after he narrates, an action scene starts, and then he narrates again when we meet his character, and then it's supposed to kind of introduce you to him. He's explaining stuff like, I'm a diagnosed schizophrenic, and I need this money, I need a job, so that I can pay for my meds and pay for these bills. And then he doesn't narrate for like the rest of the movie until like the exact end, the ending. They bring it back for the ending. So right off the bat, there's this awful narration choice that they've decided to make, and the way they structure the movie, I think the movie ultimately suffers for it because after he narrates the beginning, it cuts to Dylan O'Brien. He's in the middle of an action scene. And because they showed a tag at the bottom of the screen that said, from a past life, I was like, okay, Dylan O'Brien is Mark Wahlberg. And he's doing something in this scene that I was thinking about, like, I wonder why he's doing that. When we cut to Mark Wahlberg, there's a little line that's kind of thrown in, like, you did this to yourself when you were younger. And once that line is said, I won't get into any spoilers, but I immediately knew exactly what the MacGuffin of the movie was. It was just very obvious to me because they already showed everything off. It wasn't something where they hit it well enough where you could actually kind of guess. You'd be intrigued, like, I want to know how this movie unfolds. It was something that they kind of just gave away to you. You know, there is no real, for the main things that should maybe shock you, or at least, at the very least, should be something where you're like, oh, you know, raise your eyebrows and go like, I'm interested in what's going on. They can't even succeed at that. I feel like this movie needed a structure similar to, if I needed to pick an example, I'll pick one of my favorites, The World's End, where that movie opens. For the longest time, you feel like you're watching just like a comedy drama about these friends from school reuniting, and they've all kind of moved on, they've all gotten older, and Simon Pegg is kind of frozen in time. You know, he can't really move on from this time of his life. And then all of a sudden, a bathroom fight happens where an alien invasion plot is revealed. If you had no idea what the movie was about going in, if you did not watch any trailers, that moment would come as shocking to you because for so long, they stick to just this normal kind of premise. I feel like if Infinite did kind of the same thing, you just open up with Mark Wahlberg and you're just kind of living through this guy's life, like, oh, you feel real bad for him because, you know, he's going through it right now. He's got a rough patch in his life and he needs to get out of this. Oh man, I feel so bad for this guy who can't catch a break. He has a run-in with the law and it seems like he's about to be booked and sent away. And then all of a sudden, this sci-fi adventure stuff just comes barreling in. I feel like that would have been at least a little bit more exciting and interesting, to say the least. It would have given them a bit more time for you to care about this lead character at the very least, because another thing that I found wrong with the structure of this movie is that they very quickly introduce you to Mark Wahlberg's character and just kind of state stuff about him, and you're just supposed to kind of like him afterwards. And I didn't really. They have narration there to try to cover up the fact that they didn't really spend a lot of time developing the character in the moment. Mark Wahlberg just kind of says some stuff in the booth like, yeah, this stuff is going on with me right now. And in the movie, they give you kind of brief scenes where Mark Wahlberg is totally unconvincing as the character they're trying to portray him as. It really isn't just the writing in this case. The writing doesn't help. But in this case, Mark Wahlberg really, I think, is a bad fit for this role. I don't think Mark Wahlberg is even like a bad actor. You know, I'm not a Mark Wahlberg just hater. I've seen him do dramatic, serious stuff before, and I thought he was great in. I've also seen him do some goofy stuff that he's also kind of great in. That's kind of like my favorite Mark Wahlberg, is when he's just not afraid to be absolutely goofy. You know, like the Ted movies, or even like that one scene in Spencer Confidential where all of a sudden a dog starts attacking him and he just turns into an absolute goof. The Other Guys, where he's kind of a comedic role. Great stuff. My least favorite Wahlberg, though, is when he kind of puts himself in these roles where he's supposed to be serious, but it seems like it's lacking self-awareness or any kind of actual importance to what he's doing. Take, for instance, like Mile 22 a couple years ago, where he's like playing like, hey man, I've got a lot of anger issues. I could beat the fuck out of you right now, but I'm not, because I'm gonna snap this rubber band on my arm. That's my least favorite kind of Wahlberg, and that's kind of him in this movie. He's totally unconvincing as the character he's supposed to be, but the thing is that throughout the movie, people refer to him as like a nicer version of his past life, because he doesn't remember anything. So he's like a different kind of version, and people are like, you're way nicer than that other guy. That other guy was kind of a jerk. Or he's in a training fight with another guy, and he like is swinging an axe down and stops right at the throat. And the guy's like, I don't think that's that guy. I don't think that's Dylan O'Brien, because he would have killed me. What is he doing not killing me? Fucking weird, I know. There's some weird fucking dialogue in it. Like, there's some really bad fucking dialogue. It's poorly delivered and poorly written. Jesus Christ. But back to the main point. But when they describe Dylan O'Brien, because that's who they're kind of talking about, Dylan O'Brien as like a hard-ass jerk, will kill you in a training fight for some reason, even though that seems counterproductive to what they actually need to be going on. I don't see that in Dylan O'Brien. Maybe I'm just stuck in the days of him as the likable hero in The Maze Runner, or Love and Monsters, even the voice of Bumblebee briefly, but I don't see him as that guy. But you know who I can see as that guy? Mark Wahlberg. Why wasn't Mark Wahlberg placed in Dylan O'Brien's role, and Dylan O'Brien placed in Mark Wahlberg's? But then I actually started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? I totally would buy Dylan O'Brien as kind of like this guy who's just trying to find his groove. He's trying to find a job and just get out of this phase in his life where he's hit some rough patches he's just trying to get out of, but he's hitting some bad luck. He's got to deal with his schizophrenia. He's got to get on his meds. I totally could see Dylan O'Brien playing this role and really killing it. You could be really endeared to him because he's got that likable persona to him. I think he could be really great. He's also around the same age as one of his co-stars, Sophie Cookson, because in the past life, they kind of died around the same time. So wouldn't it make sense if they're kind of like the same age, as opposed to Mark Wahlberg, who's very obviously older than her? And once this kind of hit me, I couldn't get it out of my head. I was like, how is this not a Dylan O'Brien action vehicle, where Mark Wahlberg kind of has a cameo in the beginning? Why is this a Mark Wahlberg vehicle? Is this something that they were building from the ground up as a Mark Wahlberg vehicle? Did Mark Wahlberg approach Anton Fuqua to make this movie? What happened? So I did research, and it turns out that's not the case. Originally, Chris Evans was supposed to be Mark Wahlberg. This was supposed to be a Chris Evans action vehicle, but he had to leave because of some scheduling conflicts with his Apple show, Defending Jacob, and that's when Mark Wahlberg came into the picture. So I was honestly kind of shocked to find out that this wasn't a Wahlberg vehicle from the start. But even then, I could totally buy Chris Evans way more as this character than Mark Wahlberg. But at this point, I had gone too far and was just thinking about Dylan O'Brien the whole time, so I am baffled that this isn't an O'Brien vehicle. I don't know. Why? Why did they do this? He would have been a much better fit. Mark Wahlberg in this movie, he's just a bad guy, you know? You're trying to be introduced to this world, this secret society of people, and he's just a bad guy because his performance is just kind of on the level of, what's going on here? As opposed to, like, actually being shocked or, like, you know, kind of surprised by everything going on. Once again, Dylan O'Brien could probably sell that. Instead, he's just kind of like, well, this is a little weird, but I don't know, this is kind of strange, I guess. When you eventually do get to the base of operations for these good guys, you know, it's just a lot of exposition, explaining a lot of shit to him. You see some characters that will become important as the movie progresses, but I say important in the sense that they're tagging along with Mark Wahlberg as they go about a mission. You know, like, they don't really have characters, and you don't really get to know them or feel some kind of, like, friendship, you know, with Wahlberg and them as they, like, get to know each other once again. Because he doesn't know them, but they kind of know him. So you could probably play around with that dynamic in a way that's interesting. Like, hey, we're getting to know each other all over again. That's amazing, you know, but they kind of don't. It's kind of lame, actually, the world building and character growth they have here. Like, literally every good guy, you know, they do some stuff, but it's not memorable, and they're not the focus because that's Mark Wahlberg. So character writing is kind of off the table. A lot of the supporting characters, you know, a lot of them aren't bad in it. Like Sophie Cookson, as I said, she's from the Kingsman movies. She's Roxy in the Kingsman movies, so she's a good actress. She's fine in this, but ultimately her character kind of boils down to badass chick who explains stuff. So, like, yeah, like, whenever Mark Wahlberg isn't there to do a quick action thing, that's what she's gonna do, but it's mostly gonna be carried by Mark Wahlberg anyways. I mean, I will give Infinite this, it's a better use of her talents than what they did to her in Kingsman: The Golden Circle, where, you know, after we saw her save the day in the first Kingsman movie, they just decided kill her immediately in 2. So this is at least a better use of her than that movie, but still, like, I needed a bit more out of her in this. But she's not bad. Same thing with, like, Toby Jones. I'm struggling to remember how he actually connected to the rest of the plot. But when he showed up, I was like, Toby Jones, good actor. He's not bad in this. Jason Mantzoukas even shows up, and sometimes I'm kind of iffy with some of the stuff he does. But, you know, for this, he did his job fairly well. He was solid for what he had to do. It's not like there's a whole lot to his character, though. He's essentially just comedic relief, and that's what he does. Nothing too hysterical, just, you know, passable. Everyone that could be more interesting or potentially better than Mark Wahlberg is just shafted to the sidelines, including, like, the villains. Like, there's a main villain, but then there's a side villain who potentially could be cooler than our main villain, or at least could have, like, some interesting story, like, something to be done here, but instead, essentially, the only reason they have this side villain hanging around Chiwetel Ejiofor is that he can just talk to her, she can just kind of stand there, not saying anything, and then eventually she'll get into a quick fight in the climax, and then that's the extent of her side villain character. Nothing going on. And I wish that there was a bit more, because Chiwetel Ejiofor in this movie... wow. I honestly, like, trying to decide which one is better is kind of impossible, like, between him or Mark Wahlberg, because Mark Wahlberg is barely trying. His character is very boring, and the performance is very boring. Chiwetel Ejiofor isn't boring, but he is hamming it up in such a way that it made me laugh every single time, but I don't think that's what they were going for. I think they were trying to go for, oh, isn't it kind of scary and kind of intense how out of control this guy is? But I was just sitting there like, man, you are not threatening in the slightest. You are goofy as hell. Maybe they should have switched. Chiwetel Ejiofor and Mark Wahlberg should have switched. Mark Wahlberg could have been doing all this crazy shit, and Chiwetel Ejiofor... You know what? Chiwetel Ejiofor is also a better fit than Mark Wahlberg. I think anyone is a better fit than Mark Wahlberg in this movie, but especially them. They should have swapped. So many swaps that should have been made as far as, like, who's playing who in this movie. Jesus Christ. But at least there's action scenes, right, Jackson? I'm sure some of you are saying. And yeah, I think the nature of this kind of, like, big budget, kind of more sci-fi level action, there's some moments where I was like, if I'm just wanting to watch action mindlessly, like, it's not all bad. Like, it is somewhat kind of entertaining. What drags it down, though, some really laughable visual effects, that's one thing. There's some awful CGI in this movie. But then there's some... They pull some Fast and Furious shit. Like, legitimately, when the movie opened and Dylan O'Brien, like he's driving his car and he manages to drive it and hit his back tire in a way on a pile of bricks where only one brick is able to slide out from under his tire, hit the car windshield behind him, but also slide through the rest of the car and hit the other car behind him, causing that car to crash, cave in the tunnel that they were in. And I was like, that seems kind of impossible. And then Dylan O'Brien does something else where he like spins his car on an unfinished bridge, jumps out, throws his sword at the crane that he is jumping for, and actually manages to land on the crane while he's jumping out of this car that is spinning out of control on an unfinished bridge that, is about to... I was like, what is this Dominic Toretto shit? What is going on here? You know what? I think that's actually why, like, some of it is, like, just kind of entertainingly passable, because some of it is just so goofy that I was actually laughing. I'm seeing Fast and Furious 9 later tonight, and this was like the appetizer, but like a really bad appetizer. Like an appetizer that's like about what you want in something else that's coming later, but it's actually like really bad, like it's poorly made. That's Infinite. Infinite is the bad appetizer to Fast and Furious 9. At one point, Mark Wahlberg, I think it's even in the trailer, Mark Wahlberg is on a motorcycle, he's going up a cliff, and he jumps off it just to land on this plane on the wing, just in time. And while he's landing on the wing of this plane, luckily, his motorcycle manages to slide into one of the engines, causing the plane to start to, malfunction and shit. It's insane what's going on here. And to top it off, for whatever reason, Anton Fuqua, or whoever was editing the movie, I guess, whoever decided this, there's a lot of slow-mo. There's only one moment in the beginning of the movie with Dylan O'Brien where I thought slow-mo was appropriate. Every other time I was like, you could speed this up and I wouldn't be thinking about how dumb a lot of this shit is. And even like, okay, there's something going on with like powers, I guess, in the movie. Like all of a sudden during one of the exposition scenes where Mark Wahlberg is being told about the plot as opposed to him actually getting like naturally invested through like maybe some exciting action sequences or like intriguing lines of dialogue, likable characters who we get to know through their actions or just interactions that are interesting, well written. That's non-existent in this movie. It's just in one of those boring exposition scenes where they just throw in a line where they're like, it's been said that some of these infinites have like special powers that make them better than everyone else. And I was like, is that like their excuse for how they're able to do a bunch of crazy shit? Is that literally what it is? Okay, I guess Dylan O'Brien was able to drive his car in a way that had like his back tire. I guess maybe he controlled his back tire in a way that slid that fucking brick in the other car. I guess it's his power to jump out of a fucking twirling car as it speeds off an unfinished bridge as he jumps to a crane. I guess it's some of these guys' superpowers to drive through a fucking police station with complete ease. Like they place the interrogation room that is matted up like they're in a fucking ADR booth, like right against like the outside. Like if you drove a car through the wall, like it'd be like right outside. I feel like interrogation rooms are made like more in the building so that shit doesn't actually happen. You know what I mean? Like call me out if I'm wrong on that, but I feel like, especially for what appears to be, I guess, a more high-tech one, because they have the fucking like styrofoam on the walls, like it's a fucking ADR booth. Like you'd think they would be like, okay, let's not place this like right outside where fucking any car could smash through the wall. I guess that, whatever. That's the superpower. That's their superpower, is that they get fucking lucky. But then they kind of like never mention it again. It's like, okay, like yeah, they have special gifts, whatever. That's the excuse for whatever the fuck is happening in the action scenes. But then all of a sudden, near the end of the movie, I guess mild spoilers, you don't care, Mark Wahlberg just all of a sudden starts to develop them. Just all of a sudden. And they do a flashback to something that happened earlier, and they're like, yeah, that's what was actually going on right there. Now it's happening again. And I was like, what? Like, what is this? What am I supposed to be taking away from this? Like, are there supposed to be unique superpowers throughout the rest of the movie? Or is this power that he's kind of showing off what everyone kind of has, but no one else has used it? What is... writing. Develop this idea before you make a movie. God damn it. It was embarrassing. A lot of this movie is fucking laughable. So, unfortunately, despite a somewhat good premise for like a potential sci-fi action movie that maybe could kick off a franchise, They didn't cast any bad actors. You know, there's that. They didn't cast anyone who's like inherently bad. A lot of people are there and they're doing their job. They're doing what's required on the page, and that's about it. You know, can't blame them for that. It can be occasionally fun when you're just kind of laughing at the ridiculousness of some of these action scenes, but so much of it is bad. The dialogue, the editing, the fucking CGI, the Mark Wahlberg. Why? What is this movie? Why is this a movie? What is going on here? You know what? I feel like this is like a rejected Fast and Furious movie idea. You know, Kurt Russell like comes to Dominic Toretto like, Dom, there's something in your family lineage that we need. We think like you're the only one who can figure this out because some villain Chiwetel Ejiofor is on the hunt for it. And if anyone could potentially have the leg up on him, it's the guy who knows his own family history. And Dominic Toretto's like, yeah. Throughout the course of the movie, you'd find out like Dominic Toretto comes from like a long line of like epic warriors or some shit. Like this kind of sounds like a ridiculous, almost parody Fast and Furious movie, but considering the directions it seems like F9 is going, it wouldn't be too far out of the realm of possibility. But instead it's a Mark Wahlberg vehicle that sucks. I'm gonna give Infinite a D. I did not really care for this movie as far as like Paramount Plus originals go. The SpongeBob movie that just came out was better than this, and even that was bad. I'm hoping Paramount Plus as a streaming service finds its groove at some point. You know, they have something that really excites people and really gets people to pay attention to them. Because right now, you know, they're kind of in the rough beginning part, you know. But I feel like CBS All Access is the rough beginning part of that streaming service. They rebranded it so they could potentially get more people on board. And it doesn't seem like it's working. If you've seen Infinite though, leave in the comments below what you thought of it. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.